What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things Interviews
with Sean and Andrew.
Today we have such a wonderful guest, Hal Elrod.
Let me tell you some backstory about Hal and I's relationship. I have known Hal for about 7 years.
Wow.
And we were in a Friday morning men's group that was on a Zoom call. And we would meet every Friday, 10 a.m., and talk about different topics that no one talks about, whether it be generosity and, you know, how do you go about that, whys, or how do you go about writing a best-selling book. Hal is an expert in that topic specifically. He wrote a book called My Miracle Morning. It's all rooted in his story of overcoming some health challenges that he had that he'll talk about in this interview. I just find his intentionality and how he approaches each and every day really inspiring. And his book has sold millions of copies, which is awesome. He's come out with different iterations of it. But yeah, I appreciate Hal and his insights, and we hope you do as well. So without further ado, Hal Elrod. Sean, can I just start this interview? Do you know that Hal and I have known each other for years?
No, I know no backstory here.
Okay. Do you know that we've known each other for years?
I was going to say, I have brain damage, Sean, so this is the first... I might be also learning something that I have forgotten.
Well, I'm super excited now.
Let's go.
You and I were part of a selfless givers group. Do you remember this?
Oh my gosh.
And so every Friday we would do a Zoom call.
I remember these Zooms.
And I was so pumped because I'm on the phone with Hal Elrod of Miracle Morning.
Oh, man.
And then I got to know a couple guys in the group like John Rulin.
Yeah.
And I just learned of his story, dude. Like
you just found out that he passed away.
I literally... I couldn't believe it. It was the first. It was the first time this had happened where I was like, oh yeah, I gotta talk to John, and they're like, you know what happened? I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Wow. But John Rulin wrote this book called Giftology, which honestly has like
you've told me about it.
And the whole group was amazing, and Hal was a part of the group, and he was always so generous with his wisdom. So anyway, it is good to meet you not on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
After probably dozens of times.
Well, and I admire you. I mean, it's always so interesting when you meet someone that you admire, and then like I hear you like, oh, you thought it was cool being on a Zoom call with me? Like I'm just me, and I thought it was cool. You know, I'm grateful to be here. Y'all are two amazing human beings.
Thank you.
That I've watched from afar. Yeah.
It's also every time we do this podcast with like another amazing guest, I think it's such a reminder of how small the world is. Even you mentioning like Rory and all of our friends, there's so many connectors to people.
Yeah.
And the world just keeps getting smaller. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So tell us your story. I know there's a car wreck involved at some point. I would love to hear the milestone moments that have gotten you to where you are.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that as I've done therapy over the years, more milestone moments come out that, you know, the therapist's like, well, tell me about your childhood. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When that actually, I had no idea, like I had blocked that out. So a big one that I didn't talk about until just the last year or so, when I was 8 years old, I had two sisters. One is just a year and a half younger, Haley, and then another sister, Amory, was an infant. She was 18 months old, just a baby, and she was born with a very rare form of dwarfism that caused an enlarged heart and some other things. So she looked different, and and curved spine, would never be over 4 feet tall, and she. At 8 years old, I woke up to my mother screaming across the hall from their bedroom, and she was screaming, my baby, God, don't take my baby. And I run across the hall, and again, I'm 8, I'm don't know how to process what's happening, and my mom is performing CPR on my 18-month-old sister, and she died that morning. She passed away, and at that age, it was like, you just didn't even know how to process death. And, and my mom's crying all the time and distraught. And, but within 6 to 12 months, my mom started a support group for other parents who had lost children. And so it wasn't until I didn't realize, my mom planted the seed that when you turn your pain into purpose, it not only helps you, right? It helps other people. And then you fast forward 12 years, I was a sales rep for Cutco Cutlery, and I was giving a speech at a Cutco conference. Driving home that night, my car was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour. My car spun off the drunk driver, and the car behind me broadsided me in my driver's side door at 70 miles per hour. I broke 11 bones on the left side of my body, from my leg in 2 pieces, my pelvis in 3 places, my arm, my eye socket. and I clinically was dead for roughly 6 minutes on the side of the freeway. I had bled to death, and thankfully I was in a coma immediately to where there was no pain. I didn't feel any pain that I'm aware of. And they airlifted me to the hospital. They revived me, and I spent 6 days in a coma. And when I came out of the coma, I was told I would never walk again. And we can unpack that story more. But I maintained. Well, I'll share this part. I maintained two very important mindsets, and I think this is for everybody. This is so important. Number one is accepting my reality exactly as it is. So there was no emotional pain. I was completely at peace. It was my 3 words are can't change it. If I can't change it, then I'm not going to invest a moment wishing I could change it. I will only invest my energy into things that are in my control. And I learned that in my Cutco sales training, ironically. But I went, I can't change that I was in a car accident. I can't change that I broke 11 bones. And if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, then I can't change that. So I will choose to be the happiest, most grateful person that you've ever met in a wheelchair, because that's my reality. And so the first lesson there for everybody is, whatever your reality is, you've got to accept it as it is, and don't resist reality and create emotional pain by wishing the unchangeable aspects of your past or present were different. Accept it, be at peace. But the second thing was, okay, I'm accepting the worst case scenario in my current reality. So it has no power, no fear, no pain over me. But I'm going to maintain unwavering faith that I will walk again, because I don't know that that's not possible until it's not possible. So I prayed with unwavering faith that I could walk again. I imagined my body healing and my cells healing. I visualized taking my first steps, to the point where the doctors called my parents in and they said, "We're concerned with Hal. We believe he is in denial or delusional, because he's always smiling and in a good mood and laughing, and we think he can't face what's happened to him." And it was the opposite. It's like, well, no. I've accepted reality, so I get to choose to be at peace and happy. And to tie that story together, or the bow on it, is the doctors came in 3 weeks after I was found dead at the scene, 2 weeks after I came out of the coma, and they said, "We don't know how to explain this, but we got x-rays yesterday, and your body is healing, and we're going to let you take your first step today." So, and I was thinking, even as an optimist, I'm like, maybe like after a year, right? Like 3 weeks after the crash, I have a picture that my dad took where I had just gotten out of the wheelchair, and I took my first 3 steps, and the rest was kind of history. So, I mean, those were like the early on adversities that I went, I'm going to dedicate my life to helping other people, sharing my story, what I overcame, and the lessons that I learned, and the tools that I used to help other people overcome their challenges.
The car accident was at 20?
20, yeah.
How did you have that much maturity at 20 to say, this is reality, I have that strong of faith? Yeah.
It's I don't take credit for it.
Okay.
I always will give God some of the credit, of course, but the credit comes from my mentor, Jesse Levine, who, Jesse, if you're watching, love you, brother. He's the one that hired me to sell Cutco.
Okay.
So I was 19. It was a year and a half before the car accident. And on my it's a 3-day Cutco training seminar. And on day 2, he taught us something called the 5-minute rule. And to this day, I teach this in every speech that I give. Like, it's that valuable. And the 5-minute rule says that when something goes wrong, it's okay to be negative and feel sorry for yourself or get angry or upset, but not for more than 5 minutes. Okay. And he literally would teach us, set your timer on your phone for 5 minutes. And this was in the context of like canceled orders and no shows or whatever. Yeah. And give yourself 5 minutes to be upset. But when the timer goes off, you say those 3 words, liberating words. Can't change it. Yeah. And so I had practiced for a year and a half accepting my circumstance, which at first, like 5 minutes wasn't long enough. I had to snooze a few times. But after like a week or two, I'm like, I'm not going to waste 5 minutes being upset over this thing I can't change. I'm going to get upset for 5 seconds and then get on the phone and schedule more appointments, because that's what I can control. So that's literally where it happened, because I came out of the coma and I'm like, wait, the 5-minute rule applies. I can't change that I was in a car accident. I can't change that I broke 11 bones and suffered permanent brain damage. So I get to choose to accept it fully, be at peace with it, and focus my energy on being grateful for what I have and moving in the direction of whatever I can do.
Can we double click on the accepting reality part? The things that you can't change, because I feel like some people's surface area is different for that, of things that I believe I can't change.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's like a really interesting nuance, because there's some people that have this amazing faith. They're like, oh, I am the master of my fate, and I can change things, which can probably lead to greater amounts of despair when maybe something doesn't pan out to be changing, or it can lead to hopelessness on the other side if you're like, oh, I can't change anything.
Or false hope.
I'm so glad you double clicked on this because it is a nuance that I sometimes forget because I know it in the way I know it, and I forget that there's different ways that people contextualize it, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with the easy and the obvious, which is the past.
Yeah.
Anything that's ever happened up until this point in your life, whether it was 5 minutes ago, 5 months ago, 5 years, 5 decades, you can't change it. But most of our emotional pain comes over the past. And again, whether it was 5 minutes, even if something just happened 5 seconds, like, well, it's now in the category of you cannot go back in time and change it. But almost all of our emotional pain that we create is over something from the recent or distant past. And one important distinction, and I think I brought this in when I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about the source of all emotional pain is resistance. It's resisting reality. And the proof of that is two different people, person A and B. Person A, let's say they have the exact same thing happen, same tragedy. They both lose their job. They both get divorced. They both lose their parent, whatever, same tragedy. Person A is distraught. They are resisting reality. No, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I can't live without this thing, this person, this, right? No. And to the degree that they resist reality determines the degree of emotional pain that they feel. And so they're distraught. Their life is over this thing. Same thing happened to person B. And you go, well, hey, are you equally as torn up about this? And you go, no, I mean, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me for sure, but I can't change it. So there's no point in wishing I could and wishing it were different. The only logical choice I have if I want to be a happy human being and move forward is to accept it and be at peace with it. So that's the most obvious distinction. Yeah. And then to your point, I think my accident is a good example of that. Is like, okay, I could have said, I'll never walk again. That's what the doctor said. Can't change it.
Yeah.
And that would have been actually powerful in terms of my mental and emotional state. I would have been at peace in the wheelchair, right? But it was like, the future is unproven. Like no one knows what can and can't be changed moving forward for the most part, right? So that was it. It's like holding two opposing ideas in your mind at the same time, which is like, I can't change what happened to me, but I'm going to maintain faith that I might be able, I don't know, but I might be able to change the future. I might be able to walk again, and I'm going to maintain faith until I'm proven otherwise. Right. So like if a year went by and I made no progress, that's probably the point where I'd be like, all right, I'm not going to fully accept that I'm never going to walk again. But when I just came out of the coma and my body hasn't even healed yet, like that's a little too soon.
Do you consider yourself a self-help guru?
I mean, you could probably categorize that, but it is funny because like when I talk about like the miracle morning and like from stage, when I go through the practices of the miracle morning, I'll give you an example. One is affirmations. I always say many well-meaning self-help gurus have taught affirmations in a very counterproductive way. Like just tell yourself you're rich if you want to be rich, or just tell yourself, I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly. Like, again, I call it well-meaning self-help gurus. I'd say I'm no better than any other well-meaning self-help guru. Yeah.
As you're describing like the unwavering faith, which I love those two things coupled together, the accepting reality and the unwavering faith. It does, the second part of unwavering faith begs the question of, well, faith in what? And it's like, okay, so Hal's in a wheelchair. He has faith that he can, I don't know, maybe play wheelchair basketball or walk again or whatever. It actually surfaces and kind of bubbles up some type of beautiful personalization in how big your dreams are. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but like it's the direction and the idea of like, oh, I have faith in like changing something in some way, which is like really cool to think about. But
so you remind me of something Tom Bilyeu asked me, like, and he dug into this so hard, I got annoyed. And I'm like, can we change the subject? He's like, no. And it was about faith. He was like, faith in what?
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I said, I look at unwavering faith as a strategy, okay, that increases your probability of what it is that you are maintaining faith toward. There's no guarantees. How many people have had unwavering faith that something would happen and it never happened, right? In terms of faith in what? Let's say your faith is in God. Okay, I have unwavering faith that God will heal me. Okay, well, the unwavering faith you're putting in God, but the strategy is that now I'm going to do everything in my power to heal because I have faith that God will heal me.
Yeah.
Or what if your faith is in science and the body's ability to heal itself? Okay, still, you have faith in the outcome. That's where you're maintaining faith. It's not coming from God in this case. It's coming from your faith in the human body's ability to heal. But now that's still a strategy to do everything in your power to heal because you have faith that it's possible. And what's interesting is those two words, unwavering faith, for me came up when I was in Cutco and I was trying to break a Cutco record and do something that in 50 years no one had ever done before. And it was a 14-day sales contest. And I was trying for the third one in a row to sell $20,000 of Cutco, be very specific. I had very few people had done $20,000. They're called push periods, by the way.
Yeah.
In a push period. And so I did it once and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. I was like, and only a few had ever done it twice in a row. So I'm like, I'm gonna try it twice. I did it twice. And then there was a third. And I was like, I want to be the first person to ever do it 3 times in a row. And so I was like, I'm getting myself pumped up, like, I can do it. And anytime you do that, I mean, y'all are both high achievers. Sometimes you're like, man, I got lucky. Like if that dismount hadn't landed the way that it did, right? Like I wouldn't have been able to accomplish that. Like, thank you, God, for that miracle. Oh my gosh. And so doing it a third time, I was really scared. It's like more afraid than the first or the second. And then we find out from my manager at the time, different manager than Jesse, but he said, hey, everybody, I've got news for y'all. I know y'all are ramping up for the push period and you're planning this 14-day sales period. He said the hotel where the conference is held changed it, and now it's only 10 days. And I wait till the meeting's over. I go, hey, Frank, I don't know if you know, but I was going to go for 20 grand again and try to break that record. I said, please tell me this doesn't count. Like we're getting a pass because I don't get the full 14 days. He's like, nah, man, I looked into it. It counts. If you don't do it this time, it doesn't count, right? I'm going, no. And so I'm going home that night and I'm like, I guess I'm going to give up. Like there's no, like 14 days is hard enough, 10. So I'm going through all this, and as I'm falling asleep, and this to me is like God's whispers, right? Where it's like you're falling asleep, and then, and you're like, I'm trying to sleep. Okay, the wisdom's coming. I got to write it down. Divine downloads, I call them. And so I get out of bed, and I'm journaling. And I remembered something that Jim Rohn, the true self-help guru, by the way, Jim Rohn said that the purpose of a goal is not to hit the goal. It's who it makes of you by giving it everything you have until the last possible moment. And so I was like, okay, let's reverse engineer. If that miracle of $20,000 were to happen, how would it have happened? I would have had to maintain unwavering faith until the last possible moment through the ups and the downs and the setbacks, which is not natural. Human nature is faith wavers when things don't go according to plan. So I'm like, I've got to make a conscious decision that I will maintain unwavering faith even when I am doubting myself. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is I have to put forth extraordinary effort. I have to do everything in my power, even when I don't feel motivated, even when I'm not on track. So those were the 2 decisions I made in that day. I go, okay, I'm going to maintain unwavering faith, and I'm going to put forth extraordinary effort until the last hour of that 10th day, regardless of my results along the way. And real quick, so you know how it played out. So keep in mind, you do the math. It's real easy. 10 days, 20 grand, $2,000 a day, right? And to sell $2,000 in a day in Cutco, that's a big day. 10 consecutive, that's like a miracle, right? And so my first 7 days, I needed to sell 14 grand. And I was at $7,000. So now I've got 3 days left and I'm $13,000 away. The odds, no logic is like, I can do this. It's like, I just gave it everything for 7 days. I got to 7 grand. How am I going to somehow sell 13 grand in 3 days? So I turned in my orders to my manager, Frank, and he says, Hal, hey man, how'd it go? You on track? I said, not even close, man. I'm 13,000 away. I got 3 days. He goes, okay, why don't you lower the goal to $10,000 and you can knock that out? I said, nope. I committed to give it everything I have and maintain unwavering faith until the last possible moment, regardless of my results. It's not about selling $20,000. It's about how I show up, how I attempt, what I do, maintaining unwavering faith and extraordinary effort until the last moment, regardless of the results. He's like, go for it. And so I was like, if you would have asked me like, hey, would you bet everything you have that you're going to get to 20 grand? I'd go, no, not at all. But this is a strategy to increase my probability. I'll get further than I would otherwise if I gave into the human nature of fear and doubt and lack of motivation. So long story short, I sell $10,000 in the next 3 days. I call Frank. I go, I'm at $17,000. Can I miss the bus ride to the conference tomorrow morning and squeeze in 2 more appointments? He goes, normally, Hal, I'd say no, but dude, I see how hard you're working. Go for it. I scheduled 2 appointments the next morning. Go to the first one, knock on the door. Nobody's there. She forgot about me. Go to the second one, knock on the door. A woman answers with a heavy accent. And I said, is Sarah here? And she said, oh no, she's 3 hours away. I think she forgot about your appointment. I'm so sorry. And I go, no. Like, I'm so close. She goes, can I help you with anything? I go, who are you? She goes, I'm her sister-in-law in town from Europe for my brother's 50th birthday. I go, no. And then I go, wait, I committed until the last possible moment. She's given me a chance. The odds of this woman on vacation for brother's birthday, not very good. So I go in, and long story short, she buys 2 of our biggest sets. I sell her $3,017 of Cutco, and I get over $20,017 of Cutco, and I drive to the conference. And that's when I call it the miracle equation. I started applying it to every area of my life. And so that answers your question. Like, it's a strategy to increase your probability. And I've applied the miracle equation, and things didn't work out. I didn't hit the goal, but usually it's just because my time frame was off, and I'm like, oh, I needed a longer time frame to achieve the goal.
What's the miracle equation?
That's it. It's literally those 2 decisions. Unwavering faith combined with extraordinary effort creates miracles. And if you think about it, and that was my follow-up book to the Miracle Morning, because a publisher reached out and they wanted to do a book, and they go, is there any book on your heart? I go, I've been living by this thing called the miracle equation for like the last 10 years. It's how I took my first step, unwavering faith, extraordinary effort. It's how I sold 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning, unwavering faith, extraordinary effort, right? Like, eventually I beat cancer with it, unwavering faith, extraordinary effort. And it was after my cancer journey that the publisher reached out. And so that's it. It's literally those 2 things. And if you think about, look at the dichotomy of study the world's most successful people. That's how they live. I always think about like Michael Jordan, right? The epitome for me of like an athlete. It's like the average athlete, even the average NBA best in the world athlete, if they miss their first few shots in a game, their faith wavers and they're like, don't give me the ball, man. I'm off tonight. But a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant or right, they're like, I've missed my last 17 shots in a row, but I'll make the 18th. And they're like, are you sure, Michael? I missed the 18th. But then what do you see? You see those very few players, right, with a Sean Johnson level mentality that in the fourth quarter, after they missed every shot they took, they maintained unwavering faith until the buzzer sounded, and they put forth extraordinary effort. And you see the Michael Jordans and the Reggie Millers, you see them come alive in the fourth quarter and come back and win the game. But the average person, their faith is dependent on outcomes outside of them, right? Well, oh, it's not going well, my faith wavers. And as soon as our faith wavers, the effort goes out the window. You're like, well, I'm not going to try because it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So to me, if you live by those 2 decisions perpetually, you set yourself up for levels of success that the average person, that they just because they don't live with that mindset that most people just don't get to. And you, by the way, both of you literally live the miracle equation, like without calling it that. Like, you maintained unwavering faith that you could win gold. You put forth extraordinary effort until you did, through ups, downs, setbacks, and doubt. And that's literally, if you were to break it down, those 2 components are how you got there.
So let's workshop this, because we're writing a book called The Courage to Commit. And it's been a really fun project because it's like the Jim Rohn quote, expanded. Yeah. And it's like so powerful. It's like, just what if you persisted? What if you kept going? Like you might be in the valley, but the peak's around the corner. The interesting kind of speed bump we hit with the concept is the sports analogies fall short because the game does end in basketball and there is a buzzer in football. But some people, what I don't want to be a result of our book or that concept is like, okay, you started a business and you're 20 years in now and you haven't done it. Like, you shouldn't be beating your head against a wall. So when is enough outside of sports when there's no beater, or a buzzer beater? And it's like, it was just an interesting thing. Like, how do you accept reality when the timeline could be the rest of your life? You know what I'm saying?
Totally. There are there's nuances to everything. Very, very few things in life are black and white. So I love this. And I'll use, I like to teach in story, as you can tell, right? So I'll share a story and then we can extract the lessons from it. So the miracle equation is the best example I have of the miracle morning book. When I published that, I had been sharing it while I was writing. It took 3 years, and I was doing interviews about it. I was posting on social media. I give out the first few chapters for free. I was teaching the miracle morning, and I had tons of stories of people that, oh my gosh, I applied that thing you taught the miracle morning on that podcast. And back then it was like, radio, I don't even online radio, right? Yeah. Podcast didn't exist. That's how long ago it was. But they're like, it is changing my life. So I had so much feedback from people. And whenever I'd be like, what am I doing with this book? Like, how am I going to convince people to wake up early? Like, if you're not a morning person and you've believed that your whole life, how am I going to convince someone otherwise? But then I'd get a story of, oh my gosh, hey, I overcame depression by doing that miracle morning. Hey, the miracle morning saved my marriage. Like, these profound stories. And the book wasn't even out. So I kept going. And then when I wrote the book, and I gave it out to the advanced reader team, right? So I'm getting feedback and people are like, this is changing my life. So then, I mean, from the very beginning, it wasn't about me writing a book because I wanted to write a book. It was this morning practice changed my life. I then taught it to all of my coaching clients. Most of them said, Hal, I'm not a morning person. Thanks, though. And I'm like, no, neither was I. Like, it's literally for people that weren't morning people. And then all of my coaching clients except one, 13 out of 14 came back to their first call. And they're like, this changed my life. So I was like, okay, I have to write a book, right? Okay, so 3 years later, I'm writing the book. The book comes out and I go, and I'm praying a lot about it. Like, God, what am I supposed to do? What should I do with this? And I just got the message, and it could have been from God or just my own thinking. But I was like, I want to change 1 million lives one morning at a time, right? Which is in practical terms, that's okay. You got to sell 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning, get it into the hands of 1 million people. So that was I set my goal, year one, and I pulled out the miracle equation, right? So miracle equation was like from 10 years before. I'm like, all right, that's my strategy to reach 1 million people. Unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. So that first year, I did everything in my power to reach 1 million people. I was on 152 podcast episodes when podcasts were new. This was 2013. Like there was probably 1/1000th as many podcasts as there are, right? Yeah. And I literally didn't know anybody. No one knew who I was. So I was using my Cutco skills where I would get on a podcast and at the end go, hey, was that beneficial? Go, oh, my listeners are going to love it. I go, do you know any other podcasters that you could refer me? So I literally, like my sales background, I got referrals. Yeah. So 152 podcasts. I give 36 speeches at colleges around the country. That was when I was starting my speaking career. I posted on social media every single day. I did money I didn't have to get on 13 morning television talk shows. So I did everything in my power to sell 1 million copies of the book, and I fell short of my goal. Now, keep in mind, so I'm applying the miracle equation, unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. I was 987,000 copies short of my goal. That's a 98.7% failure rate, right? I sold 13,000 copies. Now, if my goal was see what happens, I'd been like, hey, this is pretty good. But just like anybody, your expectation, and then and I'm like, and I did the math. If you divide 1 million by 13,000, it's 77 years, I think. So I would have been 110 years old when I reached the goal. But to your point, the sports analogy falls short. There's no buzzer beater. So I went, okay, I'm committed to changing 1 million lives. And obviously I was way off on the time frame. So I'm going to commit the rest of my life to it. And I don't remember why, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, 30 years, like I was journaling about it. And I'm like, maybe it'll take 30 years. So I'm like, at that time, I'll be 65 years old, ready to retire. Perfect. I'm like, so it's the rest of my working career to reach 1 million people. And so, but I tried, I didn't divide it by 30. I went, okay, I'll try again next year. And I tried again. In year 2, I sold 23,000 copies. I'm like, all right, I'm getting there, but it's still a ways off. And it took 6 years to sell 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning and change 1 million lives. And now there's 3.5 million copies, whatever sold. But here's the point. There's 2 points here. Number one is when you finally get to the point, and this is for everybody watching, because as human beings, we want what we want it now or as soon as possible. We compare ourselves with other people. We're like, why? I want to be where they are. Here's a huge lesson. When you finally get to the point in your life or your work or your business that you've been working so hard for so long, and you actually finally get there. When I got to that 1 million, I was like, you never wish it would have happened any sooner. Instead, you look back and you're like, oh, it had to take 6 years. I had to meet that person in year 1 that led to that opportunity in year 2, that led to the relationship in year 3, that led to, and for me, it was like, I met an agent, and then she got me 42 foreign book publishing deals, and the Miracle Morning sold more copies in Brazil and Korea than it did in America. Like, that 1 million copies was in countries I never even imagined that the Miracle Morning would be in. And it was because this one dinner led to the, right? So when you finally get to the point you're working so hard for, you never wish it would happen any sooner. And the miracle equation is a way of life. In year 1, I maintained unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, and I failed by 98.7%. So I maintained unwavering faith. Like, Michael Jordan didn't stop the faith when he didn't reach what he, the goal. It's like, it's a life. So that's the answer.
Yeah.
This is a way of approaching everything in your life, your marriage, with unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. As a parent, my daughter just turned 16. From 13 and a half to 15, I thought I was losing her. Like, she became right? Like, and if just said she didn't like dad anymore, and nothing, she didn't want me to read her story. Like, nothing I said got through to her. And I was like, oh my God, I'm losing my relationship with my daughter. And then, like, she hated me, and now we're the closest ever, right? But I maintained unwavering faith that our relationship could flourish again. And I put forth extraordinary effort. And now I thank God every day. Like, she's 16, and our relationship is the best that it has ever been. And like, but if I would have given up faith or given up effort, we wouldn't be here.
I like that. And in the context of the book, you were fueled, it sounded like, by continuous positive feedback, which I think is important. It wasn't like nothing, crickets. It was like, no, this is having a positive impact. So let's keep trying to pursue this mission of 1 million copies. You know what I'm saying?
And there's another part of the answer to your question, a small nuance, which is when to quit. Right? Like you said, if you're 20 years and you're not getting where you want to go,
right.
You have to pay attention to feedback. So for me, the only reason I wrote The Miracle Morning was because my coaching clients one of them was like, hey, how do you start your day? And I was like, oh my, and I was only like 3 months into it. I'm like, oh, let me tell you. And I tell her, and she's like, okay, I'll try it. And then I'm like, I'm going to tell all my clients, right? So it was only because they came back to their next call and they go, oh my gosh, I'm not a morning person, but this worked for me. And then I'm like, light bulb. If it worked for me and I wasn't a morning person, it worked for them, I have a responsibility to share this with other people. How am I going to do that? I guess I have to write a book, right? Like, so it was feedback from them. And then as I'm writing the book and I'm like doubting, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to convince people to wake up early, right? But then I'd post on social media, and then someone would tell me, hey, this is working for me. And I'm like, oh, if it worked for them, it could work for anyone, right? So and then the feedback just kept coming in. So the point being, though, because I've had other businesses, like I started a business called Global Empowerment Coaching, and we started like there's been tons of stuff I started over the years. I'm like, it's not like people are quitting it. They're not recommending it. It's right. So it's like some people are kind of getting a benefit. Like, you really have to pay attention to, that microcosm of feedback from the individuals. Yeah. It's like, hey, is this really resonating?
Right.
And often I think that when it's not, we'll take it's kind of resonating, and then we'll be like, or whether it's our ego or I've already invested so much into it, like we convince ourselves no, I'm going to make this work and people are going to pay attention and they're going to love it. It's like, no, pay attention to what people are telling you, not what you think they should be telling you.
Yeah.
So the Miracle Morning, we've learned about the miracle equation.
Yeah.
But the Miracle Mornings, you said it changed your life and you wanted it to change 1 million people's lives.
Yeah.
What is it, and how does it work?
So it is a morning routine in the simplest way. And this is kind of like before morning routines were a thing, right? So 2007, 2008, the U.S. economy crashed. I crashed with it. I lost over half my coaching clients. My house was foreclosed on, which that's a really, like your first home that you bought and that you've landscaped, and now the bank's taking it away and I have no control. I'm 29, moving back in with my dad. My fiance's pregnant. It's like, so I was at really an emotional rock bottom. And a buddy of mine, John Berghoff, do you know John?
I think maybe he was on the call.
He might have been on Selfless Givers, but anyway, so I called John. My wife was like, she watched me in this 6-month downward spiral, just into depression, and she goes, why don't you call John for help, sweetheart? I hate seeing you like this. Because when she met me, I was the most positive, optimistic, but now I'm like, I'm losing everything. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm applying the 5-minute rule, but then I lose another client, and then I lose more money. Then I feel like I'm in quicksand. I don't know how to respond or get out of it. And she said, why don't you call John Berghoff? You always say he's one of your smartest people you know. You always say he's very good at business. he was the top Cutco rep like of all time. Why don't you call him and ask for help? And I'm like, you're right. I don't know why I didn't call him 6 months ago, but better late than never. So I called John, and I'm like in, near tears and telling him how, I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do, man. This is hard. And he tells me to listen to this Jim Rohn audio. He goes, listen to this Jim Rohn audio. I go, will it tell me how to get more clients and make more money? He goes, no. I'm like, that's all I need right now, dude. That's all I need right now. He goes, you know the analogy, Hal, of like, if you give a man a fish, if you teach, this is going to teach you how to fish so you can turn your life around. Like, fine. And so I listened to Jim Rohn audio, and this quote from Jim Rohn became the catalyst for the Miracle Morning. He said, your level of success, and I interpret this as success in every area of life, your marriage, your mental health, you name it, your physical health. Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And I had never heard that before. And when I heard it, I rewound the audio, and my level of success, if it won't exceed my level of personal development, for me, I tend to quantify things. So I ask myself, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what level of success do I want? And on a scale of 1 to 10, what's my level of personal development? If my success isn't going to exceed my level of personal development, it better be where I want the success to be. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, I think this is true for everyone on the planet. We want level 10. Like, I've never met someone that's like, I don't want to be too happy or too healthy or have too much money. Like, no, human beings have this innate desire and drive to self-actualize. Like, I want level 10 marriage and level 10 health and level 10 financial security. Okay, so great. I want level 10 success. Well, what's my level of personal development? And at that time, it was like a 2 or a 3. Like, that's how I assessed it. I go, this is the disconnect for, I think, most human beings on the planet. Like, everyone wants level 10 success, but very few people have a daily personal development ritual that enables them to develop themselves into that level 10 version in terms of their knowledge and their beliefs and their habits and their rituals and their routines and their discipline, right? And so I go, I need to figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development so I can become the level 10 version of myself that is capable of creating and sustaining that level 10 success that I want. So I went home, and I was on a run when I listened to the audio, and I just Googled, what do the world's most successful people do for personal development? And I was looking for, like, what's the one thing I can do? And I had a list of 6 at like 30 minutes, I'm journaling. I'm like, okay, so a lot of people swear by meditation. Like, that's how they get their biggest breakthroughs and insights and manage their stress and get clarity. Okay, great. Affirmations. I watched this video of it's so funny. When I used to say this, it was a different impact. Will Smith, who at the time when I watched this was at the pinnacle of success, and my heart goes out to his, whatever. But anyway, Ellen DeGeneres, also an interesting case now. But she was, so imagine Ellen DeGeneres and Will Smith in 2008, okay? We're like the most admired, successful people on the planet. I have to now qualify you. Yeah. But she said, Will, you have the #1 album in America right now. You have the #1 movie in America right now. How have you achieved so much success? And he said, when I was 15, I learned affirmations, not in the cheesy way that people teach them, but in the way where I affirmed what I was committed to in my life. And then I affirmed which qualities, actions, things I needed to apply to my life to become the person I needed to be to achieve the things. At least that's how I remembered. I don't know if it was exactly what he said, and he said, then I affirmed it every day. And then I just lived in alignment with what I affirmed. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I had visualization. The world's greatest athletes, you probably relate to this, right? Visualize. Affirmations, visualization, exercising every morning, getting the blood flowing, getting the energy up, reading, learning things every day, journaling. And that was Jim Rohn's favorite personal development practice, because he said when you put pen to paper, you force the 60,000 thoughts a day into the most important, and you capture them in writing. So I'm looking at the 6 practices, and I go, none of these stands above the others as more important. And then I believe it was God. I really believe the Miracle Morning was God's gift to me to deliver to the world. I don't take credit for it. I mean, anyway, and the whisper was, hey, Hal, stop trying to pick one of these to do. Just do all of them. Wake up tomorrow morning a little bit earlier, 30 minutes earlier, 5 minutes of affirmations, 5 minutes of silence, prayer, meditation, 5 minutes of exercise, right? Like just 5 minutes each. And so I did that the next morning, and keep in mind, this is 2008. I'm in debt. Like, I'm at my lowest point, and I had mentally been at my lowest point. After 30 minutes, I went, oh my gosh, if I start every day like this, with this much clarity and energy and motivation, it's only a matter of time before I turn my life around. And kind of like the walking again, I go, give me a year. This is going to be totally different. 2 months later, I had doubled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically to deciding to run a 52-mile ultra marathon because I hated running, but I was all about this level 10. I'm like, what would level 10 fitness be? Running an ultra marathon, having never run before in my life. And my depression went away, and I went to my wife in the hallway. She's my muse. It's funny. I called her on the way here. I said, hey, muse, something came up this morning that you said to me. Anyway, so she's my muse, and I saw her in the hallway. I go, sweetheart, I signed on 2 more coaching clients today. We've doubled our income since I started the morning routine 2 months ago. It feels like a miracle. And without skipping a beat, she goes, it's your miracle morning. I go, I like that, miracle morning. And I wrote it down. But again, not a book idea. Never knew I would share it. Wrote it in the schedule as miracle morning. And then, as I already said, like I then shared it with the coaching client. Right. And that's how it became what it became.
So a couple of things I want to dig deeper on. One, you listen to this Jim Rohn audio.
Yeah.
And I'm sure millions of other people also listen to this, but it's so fascinating how, I guess it's like the red car theme where it's like, oh, if I say red car and now you're going to go out and see more red cars. That's an interesting fruit of faith to me, from like the God level faith, not faith for, the lower level faith, maybe is one way to say it. But like, if you believe in a good God, I think you're a little more sensitive to being aware of things that could be good too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting that you were able to take that one concept that millions of other people have heard and do this amazing work with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy how ideas work, I guess.
It is. Yeah.
I'm also curious, you said it was God's gift to Hal to deliver to the world. Did it feel like that in the moment? Because I'm trying to think, when you mentioned the miracle equation of faith and effort, that would be so easy to have the effort if you feel like it's divine calling. You know what I'm saying? So like, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Is that a practice of like, oh, this is worthy of this effort, or no, I'm doing this because obviously it's a divine thing? You know?
When I was in my car accident, and I think this probably goes back to my mom's example, right? Of like, oh, I went through this thing and now I'm going to help other people. And so I think that's what was planted in my soul, if you will, or my subconscious, or both. So when I came out of the car accident, I remember the moment when my dad came in and he said, Hal, the doctors are concerned that you're in denial or delusional because you're always happy, right? He had that conversation with me. And I said, no, I live by the 5-minute rule, Dad. I'm at peace. And I said, plus, Dad, remember since I've been speaking for Cutco at all these events, I've been telling you how like I'm loving speaking and I want to be like a Tony Robbins someday, like a professional speaker. And he said, yeah, I've heard you say that. I said, I didn't have anything to talk about, like remarkable. I said, maybe that's why this happened. Maybe God is putting me through this adversity and it's so extreme to the point where I literally died and came back and now I have to learn to walk again. And this is before I've taken my first step, right? I said, maybe I'm supposed to go and be a speaker and share, maybe write a book, I don't know, share this message with other people. So again, mom's experience kind of planted that seed deep within me, which I was not conscious or aware of. Now at 20, I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. I'm thinking about this, that quote, everything happens for a reason, but I believe it's our responsibility to choose the reasons. You can be a victim and say, this happened to me because I'm unlucky. God abandoned me. Bad things always happen to me. That's why this happened. Or you could say, to me, you have to choose the most empowering reasons, right? Why did this happen to me? How can I help other people? So I did ask, like, why did this happen to me? But not like from a victim, like, why? Oh, is me. It was like, God, why did this happen to me? What can I do with this? How can I help other people with this? And so when the miracle morning came about, I think that just was part of my thinking, because it was 9 years after the car accident that the miracle morning came to me, right? So it's like, I just at that point was like, how do I help other people? And even in Cutco, I got really good at getting referrals. My whole mindset was like, if I focus on the relationship, the knives are going to sell themselves. They're going to buy them, right? But like, I'm going to really focus on like really being thoughtful and connecting with this human being across from me, so that when I ask for referrals at the end, they're like, of course, and whether they'll buy the knives, they want to buy the knives. But so I got really good at getting referrals. The company average was like 3 to 5, and I was getting 15 to 20. And so immediately my manager was like, hey, will you teach other people how you're doing this? And this was before the car accident. I'm like, yeah. So again, it just like, for me, it was like, oh, if you learn something that helps you, or you overcome something that helps you, and then you teach it to others, it's one of the most fulfilling things that you can do, right? Like Jim Rohn, I love his philosophy that you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And like I've lived by that both unconsciously through my mom's example and then consciously after, hearing that quote.
You seem like a person who just carries high conviction in anything you do. Is that like, because Cutco's door-to-door sales?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That takes, maybe like a skeptic would say, well, that's a personality type that he has that I don't have.
Yeah.
And that conviction to feel like this is a God-given message is like, I think in line with that door-to-door, that conviction of I'm gonna knock on this person's door, and I this is like for a good enough reason for me to do this. Have you always been like that? Do you agree that it's a personality type, or is it like a because you're also like a great teacher, a great speaker? Is this something that you are that other people are not, or how do you view that?
No, it's a great question. A few ways to answer this. I'll answer it since you asked me personally. I just am an enthusiastic person. And people say like, how did you sell so much Cutco? Like, I'm like, I just was enthused. Like so that is, yes, for sure, a personality trait. Like I'm a naturally enthusiastic person. However, conviction is very different. Now conviction in Cutco I had mostly because the conviction was passed on to me from my mentor, Jesse. He was like, hey, these are the best knives in the world. And then he showed me, I'm like, yeah, like, okay. So conviction is contagious, right? However, the word that I would use for anyone, in like to say I'm not like that person, that was a big thing for me. That I think that was what bridged the gap between me, because my whole life I was mediocre before Cutco. I got bad grades, right? I was like a C student. I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't exceptional at anything. I got bullied. So that was my early part of my life. And then at 19, I started selling Cutco. And on my second day of training, Jesse says, hey, if you sell $1,000 this week, you win this knife. And we're like, woo, that's like the best knife. And if you sell 2,000, you win this beggar. I'm like, ooh. And he just keeps going up and up and up, and he's writing it on the board. And then he goes, but the highest level is the record. The most anyone has sold in 10 days was just broken in Bakersfield, California, which was like an hour south of where I lived in Fresno, California, which are not fancy areas, by the way. So it's not like, hey, this is Beverly Hills. You're like, oh, of course they broke the record. They're rich. No, it's like, we're the Bakersfield and Fresno. And so this gal sold $12,338 a Cutco. If you break that, if you sell more than that, you will get everything on this board. Plus, you get to go out. We'll take you out in the limo to dinner. You get to go skydiving. It was crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was like, I always wanted to skydive. And in that moment, just out of enthusiasm, I was like, why not me? If that girl in Bakersfield just sold $12,338, that tells me it's possible. And again, I feel like it's God, like putting these seeds, And I don't know. I don't have proof that it was God, or call it whatever you want, right? It was a thought, right? But this to me, it was. I went from living how most of us live in a state of separation. And we could talk about separation from God, is right, but I'm talking about from other people, meaning like you look at Andrew and Sean and you're like, well, y'all are different. Yeah, y'all are made of different, right? Like y'all are champions. You are Olympic gold medalists. You were, and then like you're elite. I'm not like you. If I had your talent, your confidence, your skill, your charisma, your enthusiasm, your knowledge, your connections, your wealth, whatever, we as human beings tend to create separation. And it's what keeps us playing small versus looking for similarities, the most fundamental of which is, oh, you're a human? I'm a human too. You started without any of the things you have now? Ooh, me too. And so to me, you have to cultivate anything that you want internally. Cultivate conviction, cultivate confidence, cultivate. And that to me is what the Miracle Morning, that's actually what it is. It's literally a daily practice to cultivate the mindset, the beliefs, the habits, the skills, everything that you want to, that you need to embody to become that level 10 version that Jim Rohn, spoke about, to create that level 10 marriage, relationship success. You've got to cultivate it on a daily basis.
That was really well said. I appreciate that.
You've gone through the timeline here of you had a car accident at 20. You figured out your Miracle Morning around 29, if I'm right. Your book was published for the Miracle Morning
32 3 years later. Yeah.
Okay. So you've found a lot of success in life, and then your consistency, your conviction, your routine. And then at 37, you get the diagnosis.
Yeah.
How did you take all of what you had learned and how did you take that with you into potentially a more life-altering milestone than what you had been through before?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. So at 37 years old, I'm at like my career is at the top peak. I'm speaking in Brazil and in Paris and doing the book Miracle Morning. Like everything's great. We just moved to Texas. I say everything's great in my career. At home, not so much.
Why?
A few things. One is I was a workaholic, but I didn't realize it. I was in denial. If you would have asked me, what's the most important thing in your life, Hal? I would have said, my wife and kids, hands down. And I would have meant it. But if you would have said, hey, you mind if I take a peek at your schedule? I'd have been like, no, but you don't understand. Like, I know you're going to see that I'm working a lot of late nights. I'm not getting off when I'm supposed to be. And I'm working on Saturdays right now, but I have a book new, all these excuses. So I'm diagnosed and there was a ton of tension in my marriage because of that. And by the way, I believed that I'm on a mission to change millions of lives. And I had a quantity over quality mentality, which is like, I was sacrificing my relationship and impact on the three most important lives that were in my world. My wife, my daughter who was 7 at the time, and my son who was 4, because I was on a mission. And I needed cancer to get my priorities straight and help me figure out what really mattered most. And so at 37 years old, I wake up in the middle of the night struggling to breathe. I won't, I could draw out the story. I'll try to keep it really quick, which is 11 days later, after going in and out of the ER every other day to have my lung drained of fluid, and they don't know what's wrong. It turns out it's this very rare and very fast-acting, aggressive form of leukemia, of cancer, called acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's a blood cancer. At the time they discover it, at MD Anderson Cancer Hospital in Houston, Texas, my heart, which is the 3rd hospital I've now been in, my heart is on the verge of failing. My kidneys are failing, and my lung is collapsing every other day, filling with fluid. And they tell me that I have 1 to 2 weeks to live if I don't start chemotherapy. And if I do start chemotherapy, the success rate's 30%. So it's like, so doc, so you're telling me, and the chemotherapy is the most intensive chemotherapy, I think possibly maybe of all. It's actually it was supposed to be 800 hours, 100 hours a month, actually every 3 weeks for 7 to 8 months. And so they're telling me that if you don't do chemo, you're going to die in a week. And if you do chemo, there's a 70% chance you're going to die. And one of the reasons it was so much harder than a car accident is it's like I'm now facing this. I'm not waking up from this. I'm facing this. And I'm a dad. You're telling me there's a 70% chance that I'm going to die and not be here for my 7-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son? And so I told the doctor, I said, hey, I want to do this holistically. And I'm literally meeting this guy for the first time. He's supposedly one of the best oncologists in America. And he MD Anderson, where they invented the chemo. And I said, doctor, I want to beat this holistically. I don't want to, no offense, but chemo is, from what I've researched, it is poison. It literally is killing the person while it kills the cancer. I'd rather figure out how to naturally build my body up and heal the cancer naturally. And he said, you don't have that luxury, Hal. You don't have a slow going tumor. You need to do chemo. I said, give me 24 hours to do a little research. And so I go home immediately. And my wife, by the way, is squeezing my hand next to me as he's telling me in his office that you have a 30% chance at best. That's your best odds. So I go home and I Google holistic oncologists. And I find a couple of holistic oncologists that worked with, one is Dr. Brzezinski, worked with Suzanne Summers. And I call both of them and they both say, Hal, there's nothing we can do holistically for you. You're already on death's doorway. Your organs are shutting down. And the doctor it wasn't a scare tactic. You have probably 1 to 2 weeks to live. You got to start chemo and then call us back and let's do everything holistically to keep you alive and build your body. And I was like, my God. So I commit, I go, okay, I'll start chemo tomorrow. And my wife, she's Ursula is her name. She is in tears. She is terrified, and I think she's much more of a pessimist. I'm much more of an optimist. So she's like, my husband's going to die. So that's her reality. And I told her, I remember we're at home and I said, it's the night before chemo. I said, sweetheart, and we're talking about it, and she's crying. And I said, I know you're scared. I said, but I'm not. And I said, I mean, part of me is, but not the dominant part. I said, I don't know if you remember, sweetheart, but I live by this thing. I don't know if I've ever told you about this thing called the miracle equation. I came up with it in Cutco, and she's like, I think I've heard you tell me, I briefly kind of told her what it meant, but I said, here's the way I look at this. They gave us a 30% survival rate. That's a global statistic based on all of the people that have ever had this cancer. The people that lived in fear, the people that didn't have faith, the people that wouldn't change their diet, the people that wouldn't lower their stress. Like, I said, I will do everything that the 30% of survivors did and more. So in my mind, this isn't a 30% survival rate. It's a 100% chance that I'll be among the 30% of those that survived it. That's how I'm seeing this. It's 100%. And, maybe she felt a little better, but her mindset was her mindset. But that's how I approached the cancer. And here's what I did is I go, okay, yes, I'm going to do my extraordinary effort. So, okay, I got the unwavering faith piece down. And by the way, the miracle morning saved my life because I wrote affirmations that I am committed to beating cancer no matter what. And living a long, happy, healthy life alongside Ursula and the kids, no matter what. There is no other option. That was the first line. Then I had 5 reasons why I was committed to beating cancer. For Ursula, for my kids, for my mom and dad, because they didn't deserve to lose another child, for me, and for humanity. And those 5 reasons, I read them every single day. And there were days where I was so sick off the chemo. I was on death's doorway. I had 105-degree fever and on antibiotics because I had no immune system to fight it. I'm 6'1". I went from 167 pounds to 127 pounds in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, it was horrible. And there were many days where if I didn't have kids, I would have probably just died. I was like, all right, I wrote the miracle morning. It's changing lives. I can't do this anymore. But because of my affirmations, they literally saved my life. My kids saved my life because I read them every day. The extraordinary effort piece was I will relentlessly research every holistic practice known to man, and I will implement all of them as if that's all I was doing to beat this cancer. So because I felt like I had to do chemo, because it was even the holistic doctor said that's your only option, I did 3 coffee enemas a week. I took 70 supplements a day. I juiced organic vegetables. I did ozone sauna. I did lymphatic massage. And every day I prayed with unwavering faith. And I visualized every cell in my body healing. I did sun gazing every morning because when you look at the sun in the sky and you look at a cancer cell next to a healthy cell looks like the sun in the sky. The cancer cell looks all discombobulated. So I looked at the sun every morning. I would sun gaze in the morning and then I would affirm and pray, God, every cell in my body is healing to be as perfect as that sun in the sky. And so I believe, like, I did everything, every holistic practice, mentally and emotionally. I imagined myself healed. Plus, I did the chemo. The chemo would have killed me as it did 70% of people had I believe, had I not done my miracle morning, every other holistic practice in alignment.
I've never done anything with such conviction. Have you?
I don't know.
It's interesting. Sean and I just had this big summer where we did this 2 weeks in Morocco, and I got to see her in her element with her intensity and discipline that I miss her whole gymnastics career. So I'm like, oh, wow. I'm so fascinated by that. I think y'all are similar in certain ways because of that dog you got in you. Like,
yeah, but I mean, this is conversation for a later time. I think you have that conviction and you put it towards your family.
Let's go.
I think everyone's capable of tapping into that conviction, but a lot of people, it terrifies them. They like to fixate on one particular area of life where, oh, I could just never. But like with you might not have tapped into that conviction in, a football or this thing that we did in Africa, but it's like, it's because it didn't mean enough. Your family and your kids and like everything means enough to you that you tap into that every day. But hearing that conviction, it's just like you made a choice to give it everything you had.
And I want to say that for the listener. Like, I really want to put this back on whoever's watching or listening to this, that like at the risk of sounding cliche, like you have a limitless potential. It goes back to that separation thing. Like, you are a human being, and you have limitless God-given potential. And you mentioned it. It's about the choice. Tony Robbins has a great quote. It's in our moments of decision that our destiny is shaped. On my second day of Cutco training, I made a decision. I will commit to give it everything I have for the next 10 days to break the fast start record. And I finished that story about so I broke the fast start record on the 10th day, just like the miracle equation in that story, on the last day, right? Like, it was literally when most people would have given up along the way. And that is a choice. That is a choice. And it's daily cultivation. Like, personal development is so key, like Jim Rohn said, because if you read books every day and you journal and you meditate and you do affirmations, you visualize yourself achieving goals, like, you are cultivating your mindset to become a version of yourself that you may never have been. For me, my first 19 years, I wasn't that person, right? You, at some point, John, decided you weren't born an Olympian. You weren't born with, right? Like, you had to make decisions, one decision at a time, and they might start small. They get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Going back to the beginning, accepting reality and things that are not in your control. And then hearing you say, with your affirmation, there's no other option but for me to heal. I just have never, I'm fascinated by this conversation because I've never had this, there is no other option mentality. And it's, I think it's admirable. I'm also challenged because Sean rolls her eyes every time, but I think of Winnie the Pooh is kind of like the way that I resonate with living life, where it's like, oh, you just kind of rolling with the punches and having a good time. I love, like, when you mentioned when you achieve a goal, you never wish it happened sooner. Like, to me, it's like enjoying the ride. That's kind of how I'm just like rolling with it. I'm showing up. I marry Sean. We're doing all this crazy stuff I never thought or really had aspirations to do, but now we're freaking doing it. And I'm just like here for the vibes. You know what I'm saying? That like, there's no other option is challenging. And I guess, like, I think about, maybe it's just people in my life growing up, but like it did feel like being so mission oriented like that came at a cost of other things that I value, like family, which it sounded like maybe you had a bit of that experience as well. Yeah. You know, like the no other option thing. I don't know. I'm just like, what do you do with this?
So let me bring, things down to earth, which is, that for me is a fake it till you make it thing, right? The unwavering faith is a fake it till you make it thing. That's, like I said, when I was going for that push period record, trying to sell $13,000 in the last 3 days, and you would have been like, hey, I'll bet you $1,000 that you won't do it. I'm like, I'll bet you $1,000 that I won't do it. But that doesn't mean I won't try. Right? Like, I'll bet you $1 million that I'm going to maintain unwavering faith and extraordinary effort till the end, even though I don't think I'm actually going to do it. I couldn't believe I did it. And so I think that's an important piece too, is like identity. My identity is, and I know you wouldn't get it, like, based on what you just said, it makes me realize I'm portraying the person that I am always aspiring to be. And so, yes, it's a part of me for sure, but my deep rooted identity is I'm insecure, I'm lazy, which is crazy because people are like, you're not lazy. I'm like, but I am lazy because I don't want to do the things I'm doing, right? Like, I didn't want to go for the run to train for the marathon, but I committed to it. And so it's like, it's almost, it's interesting. It's like, all of these are strategies to get yourself to do the things that you don't want to do, don't believe you can do, don't feel like doing, right? And so it's like, I was scared that I was not going to beat cancer. So the antithesis to that is, I'm going to beat cancer no matter what. There's no other option. And when I sat there and I was scared, and I'm like, oh God, what if I die? Like, for example, like Wayne Dyer, Wayne Dyer? You know who he is?
Yeah.
So Wayne Dyer is, he passed away of leukemia, which I didn't know that's how he had died. But he's someone that I went and watched him speak live. I was a huge fan of his. I read his books. He's a infinitely more evolved version of me. Like, I would aspire, right? Older, wiser, I think he lived to be, 65, 70. But when I had cancer and I'm unwavering faith, I'm going to beat this cancer. And again, that's easy to say before I go into chemo. And then now that I'm like sick and on death's doorway and I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm dying. But then I'd pull up my affirmations. Then I found out Wayne Dyer died of leukemia. And I'm like, my faith really wavered because I go, wait a minute, he's way more evolved and tapped in than I am. Half the stuff I know, I learned from that guy. If he couldn't beat cancer with everything, who am I kidding? Right? So there more fear crept in. So the faith, unwavering faith, is the antithesis to fear. And it's like whenever I felt the fear, I'd pull the affirmations and I would fake it till I make it. I would read, I am committed. I would just read them with conviction, even though the little voice in my head's like, Hal, dude, you might die. You might die and leave your kids. I'm like, yeah, that's not helping. I have unwavering faith that I will beat cancer no matter what. There's no other option.
I feel like this has been a great conversation, but I think one of the coolest things that I've kind of like extracted from it, or I've taken away, is, and it's even listening to you say, I don't have that. It's like you do, because you're an optimist.
Let's go.
And hearing everything that you said, your outcomes very easily could have been different. But I do think your choice of mentality made everything so much more enjoyable or bearable.
Yeah.
Or livable. And I think it brought you so much peace in the moment, rather than someone else could have had your same exact diagnosis and said, this is awful. Why me? Poor me. And lived that way and still survived.
Yeah.
But had this recollection and reflection of, that was so miserable. And not to say that it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Nobody should ever have to go through that. But because you choose in life to say, this happened, I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to make the best of it.
Yeah.
It allows you to live life in such a beautiful way. Whereas we always talk about the victim mentality that a lot of people tend to have.
Yeah.
And if you live life constantly saying, I just wish everything was better, rather than making strategies and plans and mindsets and choosing to look at life differently, then your life will feel very heavy. Always.
Yeah.
And I think with you, you're looking at him and saying, I don't have that much conviction. You do. You just don't voice it in the same way. Like,
yeah, I'm just intense. Which
is such a beautiful, it's a very black and white thing to do, but kind of like you said, I think I relate more to you than probably Andrew, in the sense of, I am very lazy.
Yeah.
And if I don't have a coach, I'm not going to show up.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm not going to work out at 5 a.m. There's no chance. Like, you naturally do. You have that conviction to get yourself up. So to make the strategies and implement them is the only way that my convictions can actually come out.
Yeah, me too.
Which is really beautiful, how you've implemented those systems into your life to create that success for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. But okay, so let me just toss in and ask though, when you hear the Jim Rohn quote of your level of success is equal to your level of personal development,
or I think he said will seldom exceed your level of personal development. Well, same difference.
We'll talk semantics here, but I think it's kind of important because the word success is kind of what you're focusing on, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, but what if I just want to be like a good husband, and I just want to be content with my kids, and I want to provide for them. Like the word success is so aspiring always and moving forward, and not this versus contentment. You know what I'm saying? And I am an optimist.
But if you are content, then you don't feel like you are lacking fulfillment.
I was just going to say, I would swap the word success with fulfillment. Like if I were to say the quote, in fact, I should probably rebrand Jim's quote, which is your level of fulfillment in any area of your life will rarely exceed your level of personal development. And like the Miracle Morning, when I started it in 2008, I didn't have kids, right? My wife and I were just dating. And it was a very selfish pursuit, meaning like, which is not selfish in a negative context, but like I need to become the person that I need to be. Now I do the Miracle Morning to be the dad that my kids deserve. I have a self-imposed rule that I'm not allowed to read a business book until I read a book on marriage or parenting. Like that's my little rule in the morning. I have to do that. Or so one of the two. And to your point, like the mission-driven mentality, the intensity, like so now before cancer, workaholic, right? Unaware that I was a workaholic, in denial. After cancer, now I get the kids ready for school in the morning, which I used to delegate to my wife. I now drive my son to school every morning, which I used to delegate to my wife. I now pick my daughter up every morning. So my workday is shortened by 3 hours a day. That dramatically, detrimentally impacts my productivity and my income, right? So meaning like my mission in life now, my number one mission is to be a family man. That is the most important thing to me. But it doesn't mean that during those less hours that I'm working, I'm on a mission to change the world during those hours. And before it's like, I didn't understand that you could have more than one mission, I guess. And it was like, my mission is to change millions of lives. And sorry, fam, I'm out. Dad's got to go out on the road and change like this now. Like I don't travel like I used to and do, Yeah. So to me, it's like, it's like bringing your best in each role and then making sure that you're managing, like that your schedule reflects your priorities.
This is shifting gears. We have 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2 in a couple weeks. The Miracle Morning, I think, is a 60-minute kind of all in, 10 minutes for each of the 6.
It can be anywhere from 6 to 60, anywhere in between. Yeah.
I mean, back to the accepting reality. I'm a big morning person. Our 4-year-old now wakes up at 5 a.m.
Nice.
How do I accept reality? What does that look like with meshing and incorporating Miracle Morning into my day with young kids, you know?
It's one thing that I like about the Miracle Morning is the flexibility of it. I think people do well with structure, right? So I always say, like in the book, I'm like, hey, for your first day, I would do all 6 savers, maybe even do them in order. Just keep it that way you can run through your mind. Okay, silence. Now I'm on to affirmations, now visualization. But ultimately, it becomes your ritual, your routine that you customize in any order, any length of time. You might spend 20 minutes reading, only 5 minutes visualizing, right? So it's very customizable. And then based on the seasons of your life, like right now, your kids being young, a couple things. One is you could wake up at 4:30 to do your Miracle Morning. And by the way, my first Miracle Morning was at 5 a.m. and I loved it. So I'm like, I'm going to back up to 4:30 so that I can like make my tea and like hit the ground running by 5. And then after 1 or 2 weeks of doing Miracle Morning, I go, this is so enriching to me. I want more of it. I'm like, but I'm already getting up at 4:30 in the morning. What am I going to do? I was like, what if I got up at 3:30? And so from like 2008 to 2000 till I got cancer, that's when I was like, I'm gonna get more sleep now. But I did 3:30. So anyway, so the point being, if you're getting up at 5, getting up at 4:30 is not a huge stretch, but you could do your Miracle Morning. You could also do a 6-minute Miracle Morning, which that sounds like 6-minute abs. It sounds like a gimmicky thing, but the reason I came up with that is because I realized most of us do have this all or nothing mentality. And for me, my Miracle Morning has always been an hour at least. And so on days where I'm like, I've only got 20 minutes, I can't do my Miracle Morning. And I remember one morning that was happening and I go, I got to leave in 10 minutes. What if I just did a 6-minute Miracle Morning? There's 6 of the savers. I set my timer for a minute and I spend a minute in silence. Pray, relax, calm my nervous system. Timer goes off. Grab my affirmations, which were printed out from Microsoft Word doc, and I set the timer for a minute, and I read through some affirmations that remind me of what's most important to me, who I'm committed to being today, how that feels empowering. Timer goes off. Set it again. Visualize myself, mentally rehearse myself doing the things today that will enable me to achieve the goals that I want in my life. I see myself making the calls or going for the run, and I see myself with a smile on my face. Timer goes off. Exercise. Stand up, do 60 seconds of jumping jacks. Oh man, my energy level just went from like a 3 to a 7. I'm awake. I'm ready to go. Blood's flowing. Let's go. Go into the R, reading. I read a page out of a book. I get one idea that I can implement for the day. And then the last S in S.A.V.E.R.S is for scribing, which is a fancy word for journaling, writing. Pull out my journal, write down what I'm grateful for. Put my hand on my heart. Close my eyes. Feel that gratitude at a soul level. Timer goes off. 6. That was 6 minutes. And now I'm at peace. I'm grateful. I'm empowered. I'm reminded of what's most important to me. Like, right? I'm energized. So like that's a 6-minute Miracle Morning. And then last thing without, this is, I'm not trying to promote this, but the Miracle Morning app. So there's an app and there's hundreds of guided savers tracks where you pick which savers you want to do. You could do all 6. You could just do 1. You pick your time frame. I got 20 minutes. I got 10 minutes. And you hit play. And it guides you through it, right? So that's like another way. And then you could even let's say you have is it your 2-year-old or 4-year-old that wakes up at 5?
4.
4.
Yeah. Right? So let's say your 4-year-old's up, right? You click play and it's in the background. And while you're playing with your 4-year-old, like it's guiding you through it, So, yeah. So, but the point is it's not all or nothing. And then the last thing I'll say on that as an example, we have a lot of people in the Miracle Morning Facebook group that'll at least once a month, a couple times a month, hey, I have a newborn. Like I can't, I'm barely getting sleep. How do you do Miracle Morning with a newborn? And I never answered that because I'm like, hey, I'm not a mom with a newborn that's nursing and all of that. So like I'll let our community answer, but the answers are always the same. It's always, you do what you can and do your savers while your newborn is napping. Right? And maybe you're going, well, I'm napping too at that time. So do one saver for each of the nap device. Like whatever you want, right? Do one saver, do savers while you're nursing, right? You can listen to an audiobook. So it's very fluid and easy, and give yourself grace. Maybe today there is no Miracle Morning because you were up all night. Great. Right? It's a lifelong practice. And so it's like, it can ebb and flow in whatever way serves you.
Yeah. It's good.
This has been amazing.
I have a lot of ideas. I gotta noodle on. Thank you for coming in and being with us, Hal.
It's like I love the two of you. Like all of your fans. You watch your social media, you listen to your podcast. You're like, they're so great, and you're in person. Just as sweet before the podcast and during.
Well, you are just as great. You are amazing. I love everything that you've created, and anything tangible for like implementing strategies in life to help just reach your fulfillment a little bit better is we love. So.
I won't ruin it for the listeners, but I'm excited for your next book too. I'm pumped to see how that turns out.
I'm very excited. Yeah.
And for those who have not purchased a copy of Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, we'll link it down below. What a delightful conversation.
And let me say this too, because I just remembered. So the next book is called The Miracle Life. And it is the last chapter in the Miracle Morning updated edition because of that. Because I'm like, this is the most important content I'm ever going to put in the world. And so when I was thinking about this updated edition, I was like, I don't want to have to wait another 3 years to get this content.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is a chapter in the Miracle Morning. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew, Sean.
Thank you.
Of course.